Yuuko, Mio, and Mai, the trio that are literally hated by nature and God himself. With this trio, their ordinary lives are constant misfortune occurring about every day. To have been bitten by a dog, having God's shrine fall on top of them, and even having Mio RKO a freaking police officer over a drawing. All I can say is, this anime is gonna be the most relatable to almost every human being. And I can 100% guarantee you will laugh within the first 5 minutes of this anime. A wise woman once said that you don't need motivation to start work, you start working and motivation will come forth. Too bad Mio isn't the wise one. So the only problem is that Yuuko can't even muster up the energy to execute this either. So what do? They get up to do the work either way. A robot, Nano, is trying to make fish for breakfast for her professor, who looks more like a young lad than someone who created a robot. Nano tries to convince the whining professor when the fish is stolen by a cat. So she runs after the cat, wanting to get it back. Talk about determination to serve her master. However, she ends up banging into a guy at an intersection, resulting in a huge unexpected explosion in the middle of the town. Yuuko catches up to Mio while walking to school with an unusual Indonesian greeting selamat pagi as good morning. However, she is disappointed at Mio not reacting to it. As the two walk, Mio feels like a thunderstorm is brewing and Yuuko assumes it might start pouring anytime. Poor girl meant pouring water, not realizing she would have some figurines and a piece of salmon poured onto her head in just one walk. Reaching the school, the two greet the ever so serious Mai, and Yuuko feels like her selamat pagi is being ignored again when Mai takes a moment to respond with Indonesian for a good evening. While this makes Yuuko overjoyed, our simple-minded Mio wonders what kind of language they are even talking in. During the lunch break, Yuuko keeps the tastiest bite of her food for the last, and as you'd expect, just when she is bragging about it, the food slips out of her chopsticks. But that doesn't mean you can separate a foodie from their food. You can see some non-existent superpowers developing inside Yuuko as she tries to grab it back with her chopsticks twice, and then grabs it in her hand, but the bouncy piece of rebellious food jumps to the side, leaving it to Mai to catch it. Before it could reach her, a spiky-haired boy bends down, making the food pass through it, and then even squeezes its way out of Mai's baseball glove. Slamming into the lockers, the piece goes down and takes a jump on the floor when Yuuko finally catches it. After all that the piece has gone through, Mio isn't wrong that she lost the food. But an insistent Yuuko still swallows it, proud of her accomplishment. During the assembly, the principal is giving a speech with his old jokes when Mai suddenly starts laughing. Yuuko assumes it is because of the lame jokes, unaware that she has a squid stuck at the back of her head that's making the sophisticated Mai crack up. Sakurai-sensei from the student council mentions not bringing goats to school grounds, which makes Mio's crush, Sasahara, take a stand. He mentions that he cannot walk on his legs, being the heir of the Sasahara family. No, they aren't some rich elites, but simple farmers, but hey, an heir is an heir. Meanwhile, Mio fantasizes how Sasahara would one day come to pick her up on a goat, making the girl faint with a nosebleed. Talk about simple love. The perfect example of actions before thinking them through would be the duo of Mio and Yuuko when Mio feels the temptation to push the fire alarm and Yuuko lies that it didn't ring the last time she pushed it. So, when the entire school rushes out, the two stand traumatized as if they didn't just do it intentionally. On another note, Sasahara's goat is also named Sasahara. Nano gives us a monologue about how her professor made her, but she doesn't have any special features other than having her toes removable, and one of her toes becoming a bullet every time the key on her back is turned. Nano requests the key be removed so she can blend amongst people and go to school. But weirdly, what the professor hears is Nano aspiring to get some Akutagawa award for literature. Easy to say that the intellect of the people in this anime is above our simplistic minds. Mio wakes up late, realizing her alarm clock hasn't been working, and rushes out of her house, missing the weird mascot standing outside her house. Running up to a traffic signal, she thinks of how she needs to increase her pace when her mind takes her back to the weird figure outside her house. She dreadfully looks back, only to find the figure rushing up to her like RX. Mio starts running hysterically but is defeated, making her scared for her life. She bribes the person with money, which she takes, after which she removes her mask to reveal herself being Mio's sister. That was indeed a unique way of stealing your sister's pocket money. Professor Hackes is indeed a kid who finds interest in clouds looking like sharks and is excited to drink milk because she has a cake roll to go with it. But where is the cake roll? Inside Nano's arm. While Nano freaks out about it, Hackes enjoys her cake and milk. Then when Nano wants to try it, a cake comes out of her forehead, making the poor girl bot cry about how a mishap in the market can make people see a cake coming out of her forehead. But Hackes doesn't care. Yuuko forgets to do her homework, so asks Mio for the millionth time that this is the last time she is copying. After giving the notebook, Mio is horrified at the obscene sketch she drew of Sasahara on the next page of her homework. The wild thoughts being revealed to Yuuko would mean the world hearing about it, so Mio rushes to get it back. But upon realizing something suspicious, Yuuko runs away, making Mio run after her. Even though Mio cannot match Yuuko's pace, she isn't ready to let go of her life this easily. With a speed mimicking Flash, Mio trips and rolls in front of Yuuko, making her stop in concern. But that doesn't matter as Mio grabs the notebook and runs. However, her smartness is unbeatable when she saves her life from Yuuko's hands but ends up submitting her notebook without erasing it. Sasahara and Takebana are paired together to decide the program for the cultural festival, but Sasahara seems not to care enough. He enjoys his soda, reads his manga, and plays his games while Takebana keeps upgrading her guns to shoot him. He then leaves for the washroom, thinking he needs to come up with an idea to be able to go home, while his assistant welcomes him in the washroom, pulls down his zip, washes his hands and face, and even pulls up his pants. Sasahara seems to have taken the term assistants a little too seriously. Mio and Yuuko walk to school when Mio recalls forgetting her math notebook and homework at home. Yuuko keeps walking even though she didn't bring her notebook either, because she didn't do the homework, so what is the point of bringing the notebook? Yuuko as a student represents all of us. On her way, she finds Mai and gives her the Salamat Poggy once again, only to get ghosted for real. She then tries to talk to her but receives no response, making her assume that she is mad at her. So, Yuuko starts recalling all the potential reasons and one by one starts apologizing for them. On an interesting note, all her potential reasons include different kinds of food that Mai brought for lunch and Yuuko ate it. I don't know if we should talk about the feast that Mai had for lunch just in one day, or the fact that Yuuko almost took all of it one by one. Eventually, Yuuko recalls one last thing: she accidentally broke the Buddha statue on Mai's table and then took it to mend it, but then decided to bury it. But then decided she'd arrange its memorial on Mai's table. Lastly, she decided against it all and burnt the body of the poor beheaded statue. She is about to mention it when Mai turns to her and takes out her earphones. So, all this while Mai was listening to songs while Yuuko thought she was being ignored. And she almost spilled all her crimes to her. Close save. Yuuko realizes 5 minutes before math class that she should have solved the sheet of homework, but feels embarrassed for asking Mio again since she practically begged it'd be the last time just yesterday. Yuuko turns to Mai and she gives her the sheet from her stuff. Only, the sheet is a series of drawings by Mai. Yuuko promises a pack of juice and receives another sheet, but with another figure story, which leaves Yuuko hanging until she realizes she doesn't have much time. Yuuko eventually promises something secret from the station shop, to which she finally receives the math homework. However, the sheet that Yuuko took out of her was homework for simple algebra, while the current homework was for trigonometry. Yuuko indeed is an academic weapon, a weapon of self-destruction. In math class, the teacher asks the class to raise their hands if they know the answer, but like any normal class, they don't. The class raises hands under pressure, so even Yuuko has to do it, but the only problem is that when everyone takes their hands down over some class disturbance, she gets her arm cramped and cannot bring it down. Misfortune is scared of Yuuko. Hackase brings a stray cat to her house who Nano and Hackase almost harass while trying to play with. However, they don't understand its meowing, so indeed Hackase would go all out and create a speech-giving scarf for it. The cat, Sakamoto, shows that indeed cats are narcissists when he tells the two that they were hogging him and that they were dumb and they need to feed him. His arrogance comes down to bowing to the two when they almost throw him out of the house. Yuuko challenges Mai for arm wrestling to not bring the secret item from the station shop, but even after trying again till the sun almost sets, Yuuko is unable to even be close to defeating Mai. So, the poor girl goes to the bathroom to sulk about being a total loser. Being told the school needs more discipline, Sakurai-sensei goes around asking students to behave better, like telling Sasahara to not have his lavish lunch while walking around the corridor other than lunch period, or telling Takebana that she cannot carry around weapons in school, and telling Nichijou that his center spiky hairstyle isn't allowed in school. What can the poor guy do if his hair doesn't grow on the sides? Nana with her 8-year-old professor goes grocery shopping, so the 8-year-old remains inside the girl, and the professor leaves as she whines about wanting sweets and junk for herself. God knows why a snowman was being sold in the grocery store and people other than Nana wanted to buy it. Nano, however, decided to buy it and take it home, forgetting they were there to get Sakamoto's food. So what does he get for food? Shaved ice. As the whole class is busy giving their midterm and Sakurai-sensei is asleep in the front, Mai decides to put Yuuko to a different kind of test. Yuuko looks beside to find Mai standing at her desk on her paper. She looks towards the teacher and looks back to see Mai gone. She is currently lying on the lockers behind, mimicking a painting pose. She tries to call Mio, who simply hands her the eraser in response. The label on the eraser no is exactly what poor Yuuko's state is right now, which then changes to her jaw dropping to the ground as now with an ever so straight face, Mai has taken off her hair to reveal her bald head. A little peek outside the window, and you'll find the poor principal with the same expressions as Yuuko for witnessing Mai. Sakamoto and Hake's are left alone, so while Sakamoto tries to assert his dominance for being older than the two, Hake seems to be trying to test his cat patience by attracting him to things cats love. His intimidation efforts go down the drain when a fly flies around him, making him jump around to catch it. Talk about a cutie. Yuuko and Mai sit on the ground when Yuuko tries to make the same kind of joke as Mai. Mai in return tells Yuuko that she makes such jokes to Yuuko because Yuuko understands stuff easily. She then proceeds to call Yuuko her best friend and even mentions how she feels emotions more than friendship for Yuuko. While Yuuko panics and is about to explain, Mai tells her it was a joke, making the poor girl lie with her face on the ground. Yuuko pretends she has understood it when Mai tells her in all seriousness that she hates lies. Yuuko embarrassedly accepts she is lying when Mai reveals that she is once again joking. But this isn't enough of a jab to Yuuko. The real jab hits when Mai tells her that the simplest to understand joke is when she says Yuuko can grasp things easily. Oh, isn't she devastatingly good at taking jabs at others? You can never be like Mai. A series of chaotic individuals can be visualized as Hake wears cat ears and tail and thinks Nyan is the sound that cats make. Nakanaju gets scammed by a fake spiritualist and takes a dash instead of paying the money. Yuuko receives a hit for hurting Mio during her little game. Sasahara disrupts Takabana's almost confession to him by sneezing and revealing that the frill design on his neck is actually stacked tissues, and Mio still feels fascinated by him. As Yuuko and Mai play rock paper scissors, Mai waits for Yuuko to lose her guard and smack her late in the game because she won. She then brings out her newly carved Buddha statue and makes the sign blending the three signs, creating a roxas paper and smacking poor Yuuko with the statue. Then when she loses, she dodges Yuuko's attack swiftly and then smacks her again. Why? Because she doesn't want to play anymore. Oh, to be as simplistic as Mai. Hakes thinks of making Nano happy by drawing the other eye on her one-eyed Daruma statue, only to end up ruining it. So, she asks Sakamoto for help. After a moment, the two quite literally rolled on the floor laughing as they drew shades on the face of the statue. Sakamoto simply leaves after contributing to the crime, leaving Hakes to watch Nano being devastated. Yuuko mentions a game to Mio that she doesn't know about, so she goes on to a long explanation of how it is played, only for Mio to say she isn't interested at the end. Well, you asked for it by making the game so complicated. Yuuko later asks Sakurai-sensei to help in drawing the pictures they have in their test. Yes, high schoolers have images in the test to make it easier. If only life was actually that easy. Yuuko offers to draw some figures for the next test and even asks Mio to do so. Mio almost leaves after declining when she notices the ugly figure that Yuuko drew and calls her cool. Even Sakurai-sensei called it cool, making Mio's drawing spirit offended. Mio then got a little too taken away by a determination that she drew a rather bold sketch of a cool man. Her embarrassment in front of the teacher can of course be contained, only till she didn't expect Sakurai-sensei to include it in the next test along with the other images. Let's collectively ignore the close resemblance of the sketch to Sasahara. Yuuko once again creates the not-so-handsome man of hers and then passes the page to Mio. Mio uses the last syllable to draw the next picture. This goes back and forth for a while, but there are two problems in the situation, both somehow being Yuuko. 1. Yuuko doesn't know how to draw well. 2. Yuuko doesn't know how to spell well in English either, so Mio has a hard time drawing items from the wrong syllables, while delusional Yuuko assumes Mio is bad at reading and pronouncing syllables. Yet, like every other game, Yuuko ends up losing. Like another normal day, students attend their classes while Yuuko stands outside for missing her homework yet another time. Bored, she looks outside the window, not expecting to receive a weird entertainment. There stands a deer in front of the window, but the worst part is the principal casually walking up to the deer with a rope and trying to tie it down. The deer retaliates by slamming its head into his chest, but the principal doesn't back down. He tries to feed it a biscuit, only to get attacked again. Meanwhile, Yuuko is traumatized, wanting to seek some attention to the unusual duel between the serious old man and a deer. The principal climbs up his statue and backflips to attack, only to fall face first while the deer and Yuuko watch. He then tries again but gets attacked by the deer. Eventually, the principal uses all his might to pick up the deer and slam its head on the ground, but at the cost of hitting his head into the ground too. Yuuko hurriedly opens the class door, wanting to announce the principal dead, but the only words coming out of her mouth are that the corridor is perfectly normal. So now Yuuko stands in the perfectly normal corridor with buckets of water in her hands as added punishment, content with paying homage to the two strong fighters. And yes, we did just watch a deer get smoked, but who actually won that battle? Because in my book he did the most damage. Nano has captured a cockroach inside the bowl on the table, but feels scared about how she neither wants to kill it slowly so it can escape, nor does she want to watch it squirm. She is contemplating throwing the entire table when Sakamoto comes to her rescue, only if she'd let him rescue her. He tells her she can lift the bowl so he can handle it, but Nano doesn't find the courage to do so, making him bored and leave. Then enters the non-serious Hakase, who says she'll kill the bug by hitting at random spaces, making Nano deduce her aims are not trustworthy. It all concludes with Nano accidentally picking up the bowl after Hakase hugs her because she says "I love you" to her after scolding her. Yuuko, Mio, and Mai go camping. As Yuuko makes curry, Mio boils the rice, and Mai hunts some fish. Yuuko walks up to Mio with the curry when it casually drops out of her hands. Mio gets up angrily wanting to use Yuuko's blood for curry, but she ends up tripping. Tripping on what, you ask? The rice she was making. The two then bow down, apologizing to Mai when hope builds up upon seeing her catch a fish. But God knows why she was fishing if she was gonna casually free the fish back after catching it. As Mio and Yuuko stare at the only pack of jelly noodles, Mai seems to have a whole bunch in her stuff. Mio takes the first turn to eat only to end up choking and coughing all over the food. So, at night, Mai is chilling with her book while Mio and Yuuko are trying and failing to find activities with their grumbling stomachs. Their hopes to get drunk are also shattered as Mio ends up bringing vinegar for vodka, and God knows why Mai has been drinking cider so casually. A spin-off story. On a plane, we see a king and his little daughter being abducted by the orphan guy that the king raised as his own. The betrayal is about the 2 cubes that the king and the princess are guarding, which will help the guy revive an ancient weapon. The wooden cubes, however, look oddly similar to what is tied to Mio's ponytails. No, the princess is a blondie and Mio is a blue-haired girl. She isn't a princess. Back to the story. After retracting the cube from the king, the guy goes to get the other one from the princess only to end up tripping on his foot while arrogantly walking towards her. As if that embarrassment wasn't enough, he ends up dying from the impact of that fall. The princess then walks towards her father, ironically dropping the cube that she had been guarding so cautiously her whole life. One of the janitors, yes, the king's workers are not dressed as knights but janitors. What is he? The king of the sweeper kingdom. Anyways, one of the janitors finds both the cubes lying around the floor as if they aren't the most worthy treasures, which makes him wonder if he should return them or use them. Troubled, he decides to take a smoke and opens the airplane window while keeping the cubes on the window. Yep, big mistake. The cubes end up falling off the plane due to his clumsiness and fall on the head of none other than Mio. Yuuko stands up almost screaming. No, she didn't witness the fall, but all of this was simply her imagination as she wondered why Mio always had those cubes on her hair ties. What an imagination. Later, Yuuko excitedly calls Mio for winning the lottery, not realizing she is looking at the newspaper from the previous year. We see a lot of people mentioning having a single brain cell. I think Yuuko lacks that too. Next, we see Takasaki-sensei going to Sakurai-sensei to complain about Yuuko not doing her homework at all. But it seems like that was just an excuse for him to talk to her. We get to see him panic like a young boy as he tries to invite her to pick out some mushrooms and cook them to eat. After all the preparation to ask this, the statement that comes out of his mouth is the question if she is single. To his luck, the lady replies in affirmative. Later, we see him do some push-ups just because she told him to have a nice day. Mio wishes Yuuko a happy birthday and gives her a gift. Yuuko excitedly opens it to find a jar of octopus wasabi. Indeed a thoughtful gift. As Nana walks down the street, we see Mio's sister noticing the key on her back and holding it again and again like a creep behind her back. She then steals her arm and walks off. After a lot of begging by Nano, she gives it back, but only after annoying her even more. It might be funny to some, but it seems plain annoying how the lady acts. Nano and Hakase later play baseball and catch, but both are losers at the rules and Nano throws the ball like she is launching a cannonball at someone. Sakamoto tries to act all adult until the ball falls in front of him and his cat side takes over, making him cutely play with it. Poor guys might never succeed in intimidating the dumb young ladies. While watering the plants early in the morning, Nano stretches her body, which turns out to be a weird mistake as her arm launches itself in the air like a rocket. While walking to school, Yuuko catches up to Mai and Mio and jokes about how the hot weather is perfect for buying a keyboard. Receiving a dead response at her even deadlier joke, she assumes it was too difficult for their brains to comprehend. Oh, to be as delusional as Yuuko. She then proceeds to make another joke about how the hot weather can give someone bald patches, but the other two keep walking emotionlessly. Appalled at her jokes not being taken well, she throws the perfect pun by asking what an insect who asks for help a lot is called. A centipede is the answer, but the lack of reaction seems to be a silent plead of the two to have someone shut the comedian up. Triggered, Yuuko throws all the possible jokes she can come up with and ends up crying with a tomato face of embarrassment. Takebana looks for Sasahara around the school and finds him writing a poem about how he looked up in the sky and saw a right arm flying. Takebana catches up to him, shooting him with her weapons while scolding him for throwing his handkerchief on her way. She turns red when Sasahara asks how she found it since their houses are in opposite directions, but knowing her personality, of course, she'd never accept she was stalking him. She then makes a bold move by offering to pick up the things he loses every day, but screams she doesn't like him ruining the moment. So, when she gets punched in the head by the flying arm, we all collectively think she deserved it. Mio and Yuuko sit in the elevator on opposite sides while Mai lies in the middle thinking about how life means nothing and it has ended for them since no one will help them out of this stuck elevator. They sit expressionlessly while speaking slower than Flash from Zootopia as they talk about meaningless things. Eventually, Mio asks if she can say something random, and after a dead silence she goes eggplant. The silence continues after this until slowly Mio and Yuuko break out into laughter at the mention of eggplant and how they were acting all dramatic a while ago. They also joke about Mai being dead as she shakes on the ground with her eyes closed, not showing clearly if she is laughing or is under sleep paralysis. Mai seems to be taking mysterious personality to a newer level. Nano scolds Hackes for eating snacks before bedtime and forces her to brush her teeth again. Like any 8-year-old, she tries to play the blame game by calling Nano out for not brushing her teeth, but unfortunately she does. Trying to deflect, Hackes mentions Nano can't even get cavities, which weirdly makes her sad. Didn't know cavities were that important to feel human. Mio comes down in the morning ignoring her sister, who is once again sitting in a weird costume. Taking off the mask, she asks if Mio is still mad at her sticking a chess piece in her Mont Blanc. Mio starts calmly but blasts at her for ruining the food that is made in limited quantities per day. Ignoring her existence, she takes out the shortcake she hid in the fridge, which is yet again a limited item. Going up, she opens the box only to find the strawberry on top replaced by another chess piece. Mio rushes down as if hearing some bad news and inquires about the strawberry. Seeing her sly smile, Mio breaks down and starts crying after hitting her. She stops when her sister starts singing happy birthday to herself. Now, before you feel emotional that she celebrated her own special day, it wasn't even her birthday. Pranks are good, but pranks about food indeed make her deserve more smacks than she got. When Mio, Mai, and Yuuko go to a new restaurant, the two of them order normal dishes while Yuuko tries something new. With the luck Yuuko has, it is a surprise that she at least got normal food even if it was after the other two finished eating. Yet another relatable moment with Yuuko as she tries to sleep in peace with her mosquito repellents and coils on, but those damn mosquitoes never die with anything anymore. Frustrated with the buzzing, Yuuko finally gets out of bed and starts clapping her hands in the air to capture the mosquito. Eventually, she succeeds, but only if life is easy enough to serve us one mosquito a day. With more mosquitoes coming, we witness Yuuko's ninja dancing across her room. Her mother suddenly opens the door, slapping her with the same intensity as she slapped the mosquitoes with. That's mosquito karma. Hackes, being the annoying rebellious kid, eats months worth of snacks behind Nano's back, getting an earful from her. Nano forbids her from the strawberry juice and no bribe works on her until Hackes promises to remove the key. However, even though Nano asked the key to be removed first, Hackes fools her and doesn't fulfill her promise, proudly enjoying her popsicle and her juice. Mio's sister makes her work at a Daihaku fair to earn 10,000 yen, but once again Mio gets scammed because her job is to be a mascot. Not a mascot that can interact, but a Daihaku head with no ears, eyes, or mouth. The cherry on top isn't even a fair but just a simple stall on a street side. After being bullied by people, the stall owner tells her she is disrupting the reputation, wears the Daihaku and begins to insult the profession of mascot with his acting. Mio stands in a stall dreading her existence when a customer comes. Looking back, she finds the owner being arrested for his stupid antiques. Hence, Mio gives the Daihaku to the one and only customer for free. I really hope she doesn't take business for a future career. The perfect way to win red-green is to say red and sit down looking at the statues till they can't stay still anymore. An insight from Dr. Mai. Yuuko finds herself running late for the millionth time and cannot even find any excuse that she hasn't yet used. Getting stopped at every red signal on the way, Yuuko reaches with her bad luck and finds the front door jammed with the erasers that if she opens them, she'll have an eraser fall on her head. She tries to sneak through the back doors and finds them locked. She then tries the lower small doors, which God knows why exist, but turns out they are also jammed with erasers. Yuuko knows that none other than Mai can be this wicked, but Mai only succeeds because Yuuko is dumb enough to not realize she can pull out the eraser from the lower door. She tries to enter through the upper gap, which no one knows how she is going to climb up, but realizes it has been covered with stained glasses. Not having any other option, she decides to embrace the insult with dignity by entering through the front doors. The moment she proudly does that and opens her eyes, she finds the class empty since the lecture is in the language lab. Only Yuuko can embarrass herself even in an empty classroom. Later, Yuuko covers her head with a paper bag and calls herself an invincible alien who is unharmed by the verbal attacks of her friends. Good thing she got physically attacked by a tennis ball to stop acting like a fool. Hackase ties her hair in a ponytail, which makes Nano make a big mistake of saying Hackase looks like she is an older sister. So now, Hackase is trying to do the chores at home. This is rather disturbing for the house as she doesn't let Nano read and then turns the wrong knob for the washing machine, then disrupts the cooking by throwing a hot boiling egg on the head of poor Sakamoto. She even dares to pretend that it isn't a big deal. Someone, please drop a hot egg on her head to see if it's a big deal. She is then hogging Sakamoto when he gets to know the real reason. Indeed, he is an older soul because in just one statement he takes out her big sister act. He simply tells her older people don't eat snacks, so in a swift movement, her hair tie is gone and the little Hackase is back. Yuuko sits down to finally do her homework at home but cannot bring the energy to do more than pull out the notebook. She tries to recall what her future aim was as a child and realizes it was to be a frill-necked lizard. So Yuuko never had a brain even in childhood. She starts tapping on the floor while trying to find a goal, and the tapping slowly turns into pounding. So once again, the door slams upon and Yuuko is slammed onto the floor by her mother with a stronger hit than what she was doing. Lying on the floor, she smiles thinking of how she cannot think of serious stuff, so she should do her homework. Of course, she wouldn't get the idea in the beginning. Lesson for today: if you have birds and mice living in your house for free, hold them accountable and guilt trip them into paying rent to you. Yuuko has been taking off from school due to a cold. We get to know this while she is enjoying a popsicle and her mother is telling her to go back to school since she seems recovered. She is told to focus on her studies since she has been scoring badly, and while calling her mother annoying and exclaiming there is a lot of time till finals, she gets to know they are tomorrow. Yuuko starts whining that her mother warned her a little too late, as if she wasn't supposed to keep tabs on her exams on her own as a high school student. Her mother tells her she'll be dead if she fails and leaves. Yuuko sits down to focus on her useless exam and writes down how she will survive through the day and smile the next day, keeping her sight of the light and the positive no matter how many times she falls. Pretty sweet that she sat for English and ended up writing a poem. Not being able to understand what to study, she decides to memorize some vocabulary, but the words she writes also end up forming a poem. Seems like there is something Yuuko can do. Our sensei looks around his house but finds no strings to make a voodoo doll to scare the principal. Talk about passion. He then enters a loop of thoughts, realizing he doesn't have any money, nor does he have any food left at home. With his series of negativity, he seems like an older version of Yuuko since his cheeseburger didn't have any cheese, his favorite team lost the match, no one visits his website, coincidentally all people get off the bus when he gets in. His friends used to sleep early on trips, which made him realize he has insomnia, which triggers his late night snack cravings, but then it upsets his stomach, not like he has any food at home. As he tries to think positively, his daughter visits with some food since his wife is away, bringing a little content to his pessimistic mind. But poor oldie ends up passing out when his grandson almost forces him to eat the dumpling he made out of mud. Hackase makes a huge super glue to lay out a trap, so when Sakamoto and Nano step on it, they get trapped. Sakamoto tells her he isn't dumb enough to fall into that trap knowingly, but Mr. Meow realizes that he is already standing in the glue while saying so. But even more dumb is when Hackase steps in the glue trap herself and starts crying about it. Nano enters the house and is told by Hackase to get some water to free them, but what can you expect from a robot if the human and cat are so dumb? She also gets trapped in the glue gun and her limbs start coming off with the pulling. Hackase laughs while poor Sakamoto has himself completely covered in a layer of glue. Yuuko sits in the exam while facing the weirdly drawn pictures that they are supposed to mark. How are they even supposed to score with the unfathomable drawings? It is the same drawing that Yuuko once asked Sakura-sensei about, but that doesn't mean she remembers the answer. Moreover, she doesn't even have an eraser to erase the monster she wrote for an answer. By the time her panic ends, so does the exam. Yuuko enters the classroom feeling giddy over the bright and sunny day, but the reason she sees the day as bright is because for once she has completed her homework. Wanting to brag about it to Mio, she decides to take out the sheet, but it turns out that she forgot it at home. Never a boring day with Yuuko. Mio tries to help her find it in the bag or find a spare sheet on the teacher's desk, but the only sheets they find are from the Daihaku Fair. Yuuko picks up her bag, determined to bring her homework to school since it is not every day she completes her assignments, but if luck was at her side, this wouldn't have happened to begin with. Opening the door, she comes face to face with Takasaki-sensei, who tells her to sit down for the class. And just like that, once again the whole class attends the lecture and Yuuko guards the door. Takabana tries to choose between the two new drinks from the vending machine when she bumps into her not crush, Sasahara. He tries to tell her which one is good, but she cuts him midway, choosing the opposite. But the joke was on her. Sasahara was telling her which one to not choose, so technically she chose what he was suggesting. Cue a flustered face. Yuuko and Mio enjoy themselves in the amusement park when Yuuko feels the need to buy a drink. She had handed her wallet to Mio since she is accident prone, but it isn't her that is accident prone. It is the simple fact that nothing in the universe can stop misfortune from being in love with Yuuko. The responsible Mio ends up dropping Yuuko's wallet, but they do end up finding it in the lost and found. But what's stupid would return the money inside the wallet along with the wallet. With that, the precise 4016 yen is gone from Yuuko's life. No wonder the dead inside expressions throughout the rest of the day. Hake's stupidity of the day is wearing the same key as Nano and pretending to be Nano for the day. Nano agrees to this little cosplay, but Hake loses it right away, telling her she is on a break. Well, okay, Ross from Friends Season 3. Nano uses this opportunity to ask Hake to remove her key since she is playing the role of professor, but gets rejected. Annoyed, she starts eating Hake's snacks, telling her that Nano doesn't eat snacks. This causes an annoying commotion from Hake's before she breaks out of character. Yuuko and Mio, being the people with the most free time, decide that whoever speaks the first word in English loses. So what does Mio do? She tells Yuuko okay in English. Yuuko tells her she already lost, but Mio tells her she didn't say start. Yuuko decides to say a bunch of English words before starting. Hake lays a trap for Sakamoto to get caught in a basket while trying to get the fish. Even though he knows it, the reward is too nice for him to drop the idea. However, the professor can create a robot and a scarf that gives one speech but cannot lay a trap coherently. Sakamoto is safely outside while Nano worries about it being the last fish for sides of the lunch. Nano gets distracted upon seeing some school students pass by, which Sakamoto mentions to Hake to send Nano to school. But Hake starts crying that Nano will leave her. Yuuko walks to school looking dazed and unsteady, but all she wants to do is show Mio the magic tricks that she has had up her sleeve lately. While Yuuko tries to be stable, the bird from her bag flies away, followed by the falling of the wand that turns to flowers, followed by the opening of the hole in the coin, and the stack of aces falling on the floor. Lastly, even the chits that come out of her mouth fall early when she sneezes too hard. Was it a show of magic tricks or a show of the tricks behind the magic? We can never know. Nano and Hake go out grocery shopping, but Nano ends up buying shark casella for Hake after she continues to roll on the ground crying for it. Sakamoto tries to tell her to learn self-restraint, but Hake has the best way to get rid of lectures. Just respond with okay, I understand, and you're good to go. Next, we get to see a miracle. Yuuko scored an 80 on a test. Seems like Yuuko does have some teeny tiny luck loyal to her somewhere. She keeps bragging about it to Mio, and after ample appreciation, Mio starts to feel annoyed at her, but only if that could stop Yuuko. It doesn't matter that Mio got a 96, it only matters that Yuuko managed to get an 80. As thunder rumbles banging the chimney on the rooftop continuously, Hake feels terrified. She gets close to Nano, throwing Sakamoto out of the blanket conveniently. However, the urge to pee and the fear of going alone makes her squirm enough for Sakamoto to be the bigger man and offer to go since Nano is not waking up. Poor guy gets rejected and called small and weak to be of any benefit. While he is a stone figure from trauma, Nano wakes up and walks with her as if she isn't gonna get scared of thunder later. As lightning strikes their house, the two of them freak out, and you know what happens when an 8-year-old bladder gets a jump scare. Yuuko's bragging doesn't seem to end, but before Mio can lash out, the universe decides to bring Mio back to the earth from her Cloud 9. Sensei announces the average score being 92 for that test, leaving Yuuko with her highest ever yet below average score. Hake comes running to Nano exclaiming how she can go to school from next day, which makes Nano grateful. And then, like Sakamoto, we can also turn our backs to the extravagant show of affection of the two. As Nano fantasizes about her first day and gets ready, Sakamoto has to bear seeing her weird antics as she practices different statements of what she will say when she makes new friends. Then Hake also enters the chaos and witnesses Nano being overjoyed for her first day at school. However, before leaving, Nano mentions she will be back at 5. This changes Hake's mind since it is late, but what can't be handled with some favorite snacks and juice. Nano rushes to school, but she realizes near the gate that she forgot to get the key removed from her back. Dreading being judged, Nano enters the class, and just like she expected, everyone looks at her with agape mouths wondering what it is on her back. She keeps panicking but fails to handle the situation well. Our lucky Yuuko decides to jump through some steps while walking, so for obvious reasons, her shoe goes off her foot and onto the roof of a car that zoomed past her. As Yuuko rushes like flash behind the car, she trips, dropping the other shoe too, which gets picked up by a dog who rushes off in the opposite direction. Now, we have a barefoot Yuuko running across town to get back her shoes. As Nano opens her lunch, she dreads that people must be thinking of her as a freak when Mio comes up to her trying to make small talk, and my Mai shows her the Buddha statue, which is somehow a big deal. Yuuko also finally reaches the lunch Mio asked her to get. She notices the key on Nano's back and jokes that she looks like a robot, not knowing that for once this Dumbo is spot on with her analysis. Sitting back, Mio opens her lunch but finds fried mackerel while she orders fried noodles. Now she has to eat mackerel without rice since Yuuko has hearing issues. Moreover, she doesn't have any money left to get more food. This ignites an intense argument between Yuuko and Mio as Mio exclaims Yuuko is dumb and annoying and her idiocy is what caused her to mishear what she wanted. But Yuuko is insistent that anyone can mishear things from time to time. This argument gets heated as Mio wants Yuuko to bow down, but Yuuko only bends forward and not bows, and when she does bow in anger, she refuses to apologize for her mistake. God knows how it escalates to Yuuko praising Mio's drawings after insulting them, and then Mio praising Yuuko's comedic timing. And just like that, this becomes a praise competition until the two shake hands on the note of reconciliation. At home, Nano excitedly shares through that fight how cool making friends is and then asks Hackase to remove the key. But only if convincing Hackase was that simple. Even though dumb, for once Yuuko is making sense by calling Nano a robot. But indeed that's all her smartness could reach. To find out the reality, they try checking if Nano can do quick math. Yuuko and Mio give Nano a big math problem but are shocked to see her using an abacus and then switching to using hand calculations instead of a calculator. Then a choking Yuuko is offered something to drink by Nano. They expect it to be oil but it is simple soup. Then appears Mai, who doesn't beat around the bush but straight up puts an oil can in front of Nano to see if she can take it. Nano gratefully accepts it and puts it in her bag so that it might be helpful. She is then given a wrench which they expect her to eat but she ends up putting it in the bag too. Nano then drinks the soup herself, making Yuuko disappointed that their criteria weren't strong enough. However, what Mio and Yuuko's consolation misses is Nano taking out a screw that came loose from inside her mouth. She thinks she got saved by a close call but freaks out upon seeing Mai has already recorded it. Nakamura-sensei from science is also pretty sure that Nano is a robot and she not only wants to research on her but also own her. To do so, she offers Nano a coffee and mixes sleeping medicine in the pretense of sugar, but the abduction fails as she drinks the coffee herself too. Nano walks fine while the whole school gets to hear Sensei fainting. Nano walks home a little happy about how the girls seem friendly, but she gets sad at the realization of how the key and her other robotic features are a hindrance in her way to making friends. She reaches home and asks Hackase to remove it, but Hackase keeps considering it cute. In anger, Nano's right arm comes off, revealing a weapon which she shoots Hackase with in anger. Still arguing, the other arm also comes off, revealing food yet again. In summary, Hackase keeps getting shot because she is stubbornly insistent that all of Nano's weird features are cute. The next day, Nakamura-sensei tries again by giving an electric shock to Nano right when she enters the door, but too bad it is not Nano but poor Nakanaju. Takasaki-sensei is stalking Sakurai-sensei, who is currently talking casually to a student and trying to button his shirt herself. He is freaking out at their conversation as if they both know each other a little too well when he is called to see Nakanaju. It is only after he gets to know that they are siblings, he rushes to the aid of his student. Well, the right dedication, but the wrong direction since the lab is the other way. Nano once again tries to get Hackase to take the key off, but by taking, she keeps joking about taking a picture of the key. Moreover, Nano keeps reacting a little too dramatically in every situation, like jumping back like a spring, jumping and falling on her head, flying around, and then going off in the sky like a rocket. Why? Because Hackase added a funny reaction feature to her system. Hackase really won't let poor Nano have a normal student life. As the day ends, Yuuko invites Nano to join for a detour at the place near the station, but as she looks back to invite Mio, she finds Mio gone. Surprised, she turns to Nano, who has also vanished. Good thing Yuuko doesn't think much, or she would have thought they don't like her. Yuuko decides to visit a local cafe that has been renovated. Bold of her to go out alone with that brain of hers. We get to witness a masterpiece of interaction between an anxious waitress and a brainless customer. Watching the menu, Yuuko realizes she knows nothing about coffee. She decides to order an espresso tea for herself. The waitress looks at her wide-eyed, making sure she wants a tall espresso. Poor Yuuko has an awakening moment where she gets to know the T stands for tall. She switches to getting a small one, represented by S, but double the embarrassment since she says she'll like a small-sized T, espresso. Oh, poor Yuuko. The waitress sweats while questioning if she is asking for a short espresso, making Yuuko feel like she just got punched in the gut. Breathing heavily, she holds the counter to stabilize her shaky legs, saying a small short is fine. What even is a small short Yuuko? Don't make us cry. The interview just doesn't end. She is then asked a simple question whether she wants it hot or iced. Yuuko answers it easily, but relaxation just isn't her fate. The waitress swallows a lump in her throat, not wanting to torture her anymore, but she doesn't have a choice. For a hot one, the sizes are solo and doppio, and poor Yuuko has no idea what doppio means. It's okay, Yuuko, it's okay. Not wanting to be smacked anymore, she decides to switch to ordering coffee of the day. Let me tell you one thing, even embarrassment is embarrassing for Yuuko. Even the waitress breathes heavily, dreading dropping the bombshell that the coffee of the day is indeed espresso. Poor Yuuko is once again asked if she wants solo or doppio. Using the best option, she decides she'd leave for the waitress to choose now. Yuuko sits in a corner by the window, but the darkness that life embraces her with makes the corner look dark and gloomy. When the hot espresso arrives, Yuuko remains expressionless, not showing her disappointment at how small the size is, and even contains her reaction to the bitterness of the coffee. Walking out, it is decided that she is always going for speechless vending machines from now on. Mio is busy stalking Sasahara when Yuuko finds her. She is about to make an excuse when a police officer walks up to them and tells them he has heard someone using counterfeit bills on vending machines, and the description of the bag of the culprit oddly matches Mio's. Now Yuuko and all of us are sure Mio is not immature enough to do that. But as Yuuko is trying to say, it must be a misunderstanding. Mio pulls her hands out to be arrested, then bows in embarrassment, and then offers money as an apology when she is asked to let him check her bag. Of course, the policeman snatches the bag in suspicion, but what comes out are some papers with obscene sketches of weird fantasies that she has, about Sasahara to be precise. In desperation, she hits the police officer as if she is part of some Jackie Chan movie. The papers dramatically spread out in the air, but she caught them before they could touch the concrete. However, Yuuko got her hands on one of the sketches, so she gets RKO the life out of her as well. With that, the last paper is found to be in the mouth of an innocent goat, and she really said these hands are rated E for everyone, because even the goat was a victim. I'm pretty sure she just got every charge you can get in the book. After another bullying session for Yuuko over her asking which hand she hid the eraser in, the three friends go out and see Nano walking home. Yuuko calls her a robot, but Mio tells her that Nano might not be liking being called that. Yuuko finds Nano's house, but Nano closes the door on her face, as she breathes heavily, wanting to find excuses for letting her off early. Hackace walks casually and opens the door, inviting Yuuko in. All the efforts of Nano to hide that she is a robot and to hide that Sakamoto can speak go down the drain when Hackace casually tells Yuuko about how she made Nano and what crazy features she installed in her. Moreover, Yuuko having a toddler's brain is proved by how well she bonds with Hackace. After hours of acting senseless and crazy, Yuuko is about to leave, but not before telling Nano that it doesn't matter if she is a robot. Nano feels even better when she walks out and finds the screw that she must have dropped at school. It was Mai with a silent message that it was okay that she was a robot. Yuuko asks Mai to walk home together, but she wants to stop by a fire hydrant. Yuuko laughs away the absurdity. She is then taking out her shoes when Mai comes wearing a weirdly high sandal with only one foot while the other one has normal shoes. Moreover, the sandal has a hole in it with bird feed, so currently, a bird is sitting in her sandal as she speaks about it being asymmetry. What's asymmetric is your mind, Mai, and we love it. As Nano thinks about what to cook for the day, Hackace enters while holding a crow she caught. Nano freaks out, but Hackace tells her not to worry. Later, Sakamoto wakes up and looks around the entire house for his scarf that is gone. When he walks up to his housemates, he finds them talking to a crow. Yes, Hackace casually took out the scarf from the cat and gave it to a crow, typical 8-year-old behavior. The crow talks to them with extreme manners while Sakamoto tries to tell them about the lack of a scarf. Ironically, Hackace also pretends like she doesn't know where the scarf went, and when the crow talks to Sakamoto and tells them he wants the scarf, Nano realizes Hackace took it from Sakamoto. She does have an unaccountable behavior as a professor. I guess that's where age plays the role. Nano tells her to make another scarf, and Hackace comes up with another robot named Biscuit Number 1. Cute stuff. She then shows his rocket punches, but the punch falls right after leaving the body. Then for the other punch, poor Biscuit's head flies off. Nano, Hackace, and Mr. Crow all roll on the floor laughing while Sakamoto, the mismatch, controls the urge to kill them all. Later, Mr. Crow pays a dramatic tribute and goodbye before leaving and saying the scarf should be returned to the honor. But since Mr. Crow was the spirit animal of Hackace, he left without returning the scarf. Nano, Yuuko, and Mio make a pyramid out of cards, and only the top 2 cards are left, but they keep shaking while trying to put them. Then Nano falls asleep, so the other 2 try. Then Mai's cat comes out from under the table, freaking the 2 out. They take a walk to calm down and come back to see Mai using a feather through the cards to play with the cat. They stop her and try again to find Nano's nose bubble from snores moving the cards. They make her lie down a little farther and turn to find Mai putting her glasses on on top of the stack. They stop her and are about to place the cards when Yuuko feels the urge to pee. Returning, she finds the ceiling fan fallen onto the table. Yuuko puts the cards on top of the fallen fan and the two of them lie down crying and shaking. All the chaos without a single word uttered, making it a perfect Pink Panther level comedy. Nakamura-sensei digs some holes behind the gymnasium, filling them with glue guns to trap Nano. But once again Nichijou falls inside the trap and God knows why she shaves the only hair on the poor boy's head. Anika once again rushes to get Tanaka-sensei to help, but he is currently freaking out about Sakura-sensei's brother getting to know about his feelings. When sure he wouldn't snitch, the two rushes to help Nichijou only to fall into the other traps. Nakamura-sensei once again runs away while Nano falls in the ditch, but her ki prevents her from reaching the bottom and getting stuck. The trap was a failure to begin with. Yuuko decides she isn't going to respond to the weird jokes of Mai. She controls from reacting to her double glasses, to how she pretends she cannot find the ones on her head, how she says take a seat instead of seat, and then how she starts reading the book in class by keeping it far and not having the right glasses. But eventually, the last one makes her scream out that she memorized the book if she is reading like that. Satisfied with finally speaking, she self-punishes and walks to stand outside when Mai tells her that she has been wearing contacts all day, which means both the glasses had no purpose. But Yuuko has realized her purpose. It is to react to Mai's weird jokes. Yuuko takes Mio to the same renovated cafe to feel her embarrassment nullified, but when Mio starts giving her long order with precise details and fluency, Yuuko recalls her trauma and runs away. Nakamura-sensei decides to use her numbing medicine to trap Nano, but when the cup overfills, she takes a sip out of the coffee in caution. Yes, she is her own biggest enemy. Yuuko sits in the subway going to visit Mai in the next town because apparently, Mai said she'll get free candy. Suddenly, she politely refuses to offer a piece of bread only to find the woman was offering it to her dog. She then gets up to give a seat to the elderly lady, but she rejects her halfway, making a little girl control her laugh at her, increasing her embarrassment. Luckily, she decides she is going to get off at the same station. But as we know, Life and Yuuko don't get along well. The opposite doors to where she is standing were supposed to open. Yuuko tries to walk away without feeling embarrassed, but a little girl ends up laughing at her. Yuuko tries to forget the embarrassment when she bumps into someone and starts apologizing. Looking up, it turns out to be a statue. The little girl laughs again at her, and as Yuuko walks following the weird map to the burger place, she feels like the girl is following her. She asks someone to guide her to the burger place, but when she looks up, it is another statue. At this point, I don't think Yuuko is at fault. Universe just tries to play with her. The little girl wipes her tears of laughter and helps Yuuko, as she turns out to be Takabane's sister visiting her at the same place. Yuuko sits there as Mai enters wearing a night costume mentioning trick or treat. So this is what the free candy was about. Randomly, Yuuko also takes out weird glasses from her bag, ready to have some sweet fun. Hackes makes another robot, Biscuit number 2, and begs for Nano's attention to praise her and call her amazing. She makes Biscuit to mention his features and how he feeds on biscuits for supply, but Nano thinks it is a normal accomplishment for Hackes, so Hackes makes her praise her by demanding it. Poor Biscuit number 2 doesn't get his biscuits because Hackes ate them all and sits alone feeling neglected. Back to the plain princess story. Was it Yuuko's imagination or a real story? The janitor-like workers prepare performances to entertain the princess, but all seem to fail and are thrown off the plane. One of the comedians with his weird dress runs away as she keeps doing so and throws his blue pom-poms in annoyance from the plane window. And yes, they fall off the sky, right onto Mio's head, making Yuuko once again stand up, exclaiming in a quiet classroom. She needs to stop sitting behind Mio. The amount of time she spends outside the classroom is more than what she spends inside. Yuuko tries to help Mio in the high jump. Mio inhales a long breath and starts running to jump off the bar and land on the mattress. She indeed jumps and lands on the mattress, but not from above the bar but from below. Cherry on top thinks she did it. Yuuko scolds her and asks her to try again by lowering the bar, but in the next jump, the bar goes along with Mio to the mattress while Mio still confidently asks Yuuko how she did, as if she felt nothing on her head. Yuuko calls her stance like that of a torpedo, which Mio takes as a compliment. Maintaining her patience, Yuuko smiles, telling Mio she is going to stay till Mio learns because Mio has always let her copy her homework. Getting emotional that even though she has always been bad at sports and cannot do it well no matter how much she tries, she needs to do it this time for Yuuko. Running dramatically, we get to see Mio finally reach the bar and take off from the land. What a nice jump as she reaches above the bar, but not towards the bar. The directionally challenged girl jumps toward Yuuko, smacking her head in her stomach. A frustrated Yuuko attacks Mio in the back, making her fly off the ground yet again and fall onto the mattress from above the bar. This is to be named a torpedo jump. As it starts raining, Hakace realizes she needs to get the laundry inside. So she rushes, but not outside. She surfs through the drawers and gets her raincoat and shoes from there. By this time the clothes are all soaking wet, but Sakamoto tells her she still needs to bring them back. When Nano gets back, she finds the cloth standing on the ground with all the clothes and Hakace standing there blaming Sakamoto that he asked her to drop it. Sometimes, it shows how much Hakace needs to be around a parent. Yuuko meets the other two on the way to school while holding the self-portrait made out of clay. The assignment due today was forgotten by the other two, making it a proud day for Yuuko. Only if the pride could reach the classroom, it suddenly starts pouring, so the three take a shade at the temple where they stand. The three of them stare blankly at the rain when Yuuko decides to donate a coin. However, the coin jumps over Mai's book lying on the box and falls to the ground. Yuuko ignores it and rings the bell. But what fate holds is the bell to ring in the heads of the three. Falling off the roof, the bells bounce off Yuuko's head and onto Mio's, burying the two into the wooden floor. Mai dodges the bell, but a frame from behind falls onto her head, getting stuck on her neck. The three just lie there accepting their fate at this point. The temple owner tries to blame the three as his temple starts falling out one by one. Well, calling them cursed for this happening to the temple can be a tiny bit accurate. Mio gave everyone tasks to fill out the page numbers, texts, and colors in the manuscript she was going to send to someone who liked their work. Yuuko jokes that Mio used to hide her skills, which makes Nano read it. She gets so absorbed that she needs a minute to get some fresh air. I don't know why reading just one page would make her do that. As she goes out, Mio tells the other two to hurry since she doesn't have much time. Yuuko sits down to work, not realizing she has the pen upside down in her hand. So currently, she has stabbed herself with the nib and is screaming dramatically, yet getting ignored by the others. Mai starts getting on Mio's nerves as she keeps drawing stuff in blank spaces or changing the text without Mio's consent. Annoyed at that, Mio tells her to go read a book. On the other hand, Yuuko has already spilled ink on the paper and is trying to redraw the face she spoiled. Now we all recall what Yuuko's definition of a cool face has been, knowing that there is no way she can match what Mio drew. Throwing the ink back on it, she decides to reverse time and apologize to Mio. Now time cannot exactly be reversed since Mio used the last manuscript paper to redraw the page Mai messed up with her antics. Nano is it for the game of hide and seek but finds Sakamoto right away. He pretends to not be interested but is completely excited and invested in the game. They look for Hakace for a long time but decide to take a break, which makes her come out from a secret room behind a wall. She shares her fear that they may have never found her. Well, it's true since she disappeared into the walls. Sakamoto decides to be at this time, showing he wants to play more, but the two of them walk off, ignoring the poor Meow. We see Mio screaming frustratedly, which is very understandable since everyone just keeps testing her patience and trying to ruin the huge opportunity she got. When Mio asked Yuuko to buy more papers, she stalled a lot by talking about random stuff or making a toss as to who should go. Mai had left without informing anyone and Nano was invested in the story, making Mio depend on Yuuko for papers. When Yuuko got back, she kept joking around about forgetting the papers, which had a separate portion in Mio's angry rant. All this while, Mio doesn't realize Yuuko has the papers in hand. However, who could blame the poor girl? Yuuko shares her joy at how she finally got away without being punished for forgetting her homework. However, before she could complete it, she got smacked on her head. We get to see the smack from every angle possible, so if you think it is a dream, snap out of it. Later, Takasaki-sensei is walking mindlessly in the market when he comes across Sakurai-sensei. It is a delight enough for him to see her in casuals that tears well up in his eyes. A little more time and he is holding his chest, wishing he was a green onion that got to go home with Sakurai-sensei. Seeing him like that, she offers to let him rest somewhere, which he first declines, but realizing she said he visualizes himself in a park with his head in her lap. Hence, he takes the poor unaware woman towards the park. Too bad the Queen of Misfortune sits on the way. They both come across Yuuko, who asks how they are here. Flustered and scared, he makes an excuse that he didn't know the two of them here and rushes home, leaving both Yuuko and Sakurai-sensei confused. Nakamura-sensei has laid yet another trap for Nano in the market, but Takasaki passing by recognizes her and calls her cute in the boyish outfit and absence of a lab coat. This makes Nakamura abort the mission yet again and rush off. Boy, she could run a marathon easily at this point. Back to another chapter of Yuuko's fantasies of sitting behind Mio. The kingdom janitors are looking for the wooden cubes while they have already found one when an angry Mio with only one pigtail threatens them to return it. They call her a monster and try to fight her one at a time, but she kills two of them and gets the cube back. This makes them believe she has ancient powers, and when she is about to attack others after throwing one of the janitors away, the person bounces off and circles around the plane, hitting Mio from the back. This push results in Mio falling off the hole in the plane that she made through a blast and landing where? On the chair in front of Yuuko. Yuuko made the right decision to go wash her face after that. Nichijou with his little grown spikes is in the second phase of proving spirits don't exist, for which he goes to a temple pretending to be possessed so he can see through the drama called exorcism. However, his acting is too weak. He pretends to have something constricting his throat, so the priest gives him medicine for sore throat. He tells them he feels like someone is choking him, so the priest tells him to not read and watch weird stuff. To make it believable, Nichijou starts acting weird, hitting himself and throwing things around. He even damages the temple, which makes the priest call him a demon and throw him out. But he believes sometimes on the path to prove everything by science, you need to become a demon. Not really, Nichijou, your brain growth is just as small as your hair growth. As Nano gets back, Hackase is busy tying a sleeping Sakamoto to a rope since she is going out for a walk. Nano tells her that her friends are visiting. Walking out, Hackase is unbothered that Sakamoto was unaware he was being tied, and she doesn't even give him time to get up and walk. So currently, Hackase is wandering and Sakamoto is being dragged. They come to a halt and start shaking as they see two dogs panting and standing in front of them. The dogs have the owner Mai with them, but it is Mai we are talking about. In no time, Mai and the leashes are gone, leaving both the dogs blocking either path of the street. They feel like they are saved when Yuuko and Mio walk up to them. Mio jokes that Hackase is scared of dogs and tells them they won't bite, but makes the mistake of going closer to one. The dog bites Yuuko's hand, creating a scream that shakes the earth. Mio tries to console a crying Hackase that Yuuko is just stupid and that being at a distance won't harm her. But we get yet another glass-shattering scream when the dog walks up to Mio and bites her leg. Hackase and Sakamoto fear for their life when Mai pops out of nowhere and pets the dogs. Hackase screams at her for not putting them on a leash, while Mai feels like she knows the two girls dying in front of her. Mai compensates by giving Hackase chocolate and walks off. Yeah, two friends whom your dogs bit are not at all important and should be left on the street indeed. Hackase and Sakamoto run back home seeing two more dogs, and Nano keeps wondering why the two haven't reached her house yet. Mio's sister is indeed a menace to society, for she makes a jam out of fermented fish, and then makes her sister drink all kinds of nonsense to make the taste of her mouth even worse. Poor Mio quite literally had her entire life flash in front of her eyes at that taste. Sakurai-sensei enters her brother's room to clean it up, but ends up finding a magazine that he shouldn't have. He comes in the room and throws her out, telling her she needs to knock before coming in. So, she barges into his room multiple times without knocking and being thrown out before she finally manages to call him out for the magazine. He makes an excuse that it belongs to someone else so she doesn't throw it out. Mai notices Yuuko and Mio apologizing to Nano about not visiting her because they got bitten by dogs. It feels like Mai does finally notice herself being alone due to her antics. We see a summary of how fateful Yuuko's life is as her paper rips while erasing. Her shoe gets stuck to gum while walking. She sits on a freshly painted bench, her bicycle seat gets replaced by broccoli, and the train she is in halts midway while two kids sleep on her shoulders. Yep, consider it a silent call for help, but who exactly can save someone who is nature's enemy? Mai visits Nano spontaneously and gets glared at by Hackase, who recognizes how she freed the dogs to attack her. While Nano goes to bring tea, Mai tries to interact with Hackase, but Hackase keeps rejecting her attempts. Hackase may be an absurd child, but if someone unleashes their dogs at you, this much tantrum is deserved. Eventually, Mai notices Hackase drawing a shark and draws a better shark for her. This melts Hackase as she makes Mai draw a shark to her liking and exchanges it with her cutely drawn childish shark. When Nano comes back, she sees a note from Mai that she is leaving, making her wonder what was her purpose to visit. Mai walks back and looks at the paper of Hackase's drawing, feeling content and happy. But what about the apology of the two who were bitten? Poor girls. Nakamura-sensei is at home plotting against Nano when she sees a black cat outside, jumps out of the window and climbs the wall of another house to follow it. Turns out, Sakamoto was her cat that got away, and currently, she is being accused of being a thief since she normally climbs the wall of another house at night. Yuuko witnesses Sasahara helping Nano carry her book and runs to Mio to give her the big news. However, Mio doesn't react to the news and keeps writing the report that is due. She then starts making fun of Yuuko for making a big deal out of him helping her carry books. Yuuko gets offended for being called stupid as if it isn't true and starts narrating a whole made-up story about how the two of them kissed and then bought some bread that they shared in the courtyard while Sasahara also took his clothes off. Miss ADHD suddenly realizes that she also has a report due and starts working on it, not bothering about how she ruined Mio's work. Mio visualizes the whole scenario and then tries to talk to Yuuko, but Yuuko is too busy working. Mio decides to rush to the courtyard to see for herself, but right after opening the door, she finds Sasahara leaving from Nano's side. Upon knowing the reality, Yuuko is now sitting on her table with her head smacked while Mio gets back to work. Hackase finishes her dinner and lies down, ignoring Nano's scolding about how she should eat her green onions too. Nano asks Sakamoto to back her up but gets worried upon seeing him all sweaty and panting while his bowl is still full of food. Hake's observes Nano caring about Sakamoto's cold and tries to feed him her onions to save herself. She is ignored as Nano covers Sakamoto and fills his bowl with milk. Being a selfish little brat, Hake pretends to cough and orders Nano to give her a chocolate, but Nano refuses. Hake goes to sulk in the corner but gets excited at being told she is Nano's favorite. However, the condition for chocolate remains eating green onions, making the house echo with wailings of Hake's. Mio is about to get herself an Yuuko banana and melon juice each when her coin falls. It lands near the feet of Sasahara, which makes Mio flustered, while Sasahara is weirdly arrogant to say that he forgot his wallet and got a coin to quench his thirst. As he puts it in the vending, he receives no response. After telling the machine he likes it, the cup pops down but upside down. Mio tries to say something, but he lets the drink fall on the upside down cup and drinks the little that settled in the groove of the cup. It is a wonder that Mio felt closer to Sasahara after this rather than feeling less attracted. Takabana's friends tell her to go wake Sasahara up since he slept in the previous class and the next one is in a different room. They secretly hope she finally confesses, but only if Takabana would do that. She goes on and starts scolding Sasahara and even bangs her fist on the table, but a bad move. Sasahara's glasses were on the table that got smashed. She starts apologizing when Sasahara offers her a tissue. He tells her that damage to glasses doesn't hurt a person, but damage to a hand does. Pretty cute and deep stuff from Sasahara. Feeling flustered and embarrassed, she holds his arm and decides to be his eyes for the day since she broke them. I don't think he is that blind, but let's see where it goes. The whole school watches them wide-eyed as they walk with interlocked arms. Sasahara tells her he needs a detour to the washroom, and after a good thought, she agrees to tag along. And here comes the embarrassment bomb. Sasahara confusingly questions her why, and upon the reason tells her that the glasses have been fake all along. Boy, would I want the ground to swallow me at that. On the other hand, we have a heartbroken Mio who starts running rashly in the opposite direction after watching the two of them. Yuuko keeps running behind her, whether she jumps through a glass window, boxes with the air in front of a crowd, rush through the sports grounds, or even through the tracks of a train. Eventually, she jumps into the water and saves a drowning boy. Coming out, she is surrounded by Yuuko, a police officer, and an oldie who is inviting her to learn professional boxing. This makes the heartbroken girl laugh in relief. Nakamura-sensei spends her time stalking Nano and decides to stalk her up to her house, wanting to see the person who created her and steal her blueprints. Boy, is she up to a surprise. Coincidentally, she easily finds herself in front of the house and collides with Biscuit 2 right at the entrance. Way to sneak around, Sensei. Nano comes to the house at the same time, inviting her in. Sensei is cautious of her drinks and the surroundings and feels shocked to her core upon seeing Hake as the professor. Moreover, she freaks out at seeing a talking cat. Well, she doesn't know it's a cat because of the hideous mask on Sakamoto's head and thinks it is a homunculus. God knows what that is. Wanting to run away, she sneaks out but once again comes across Biscuit 2 and falls into the huge super glue. I'd call her too full of herself for thinking these innocent, non-serious beings are laying a well-defined plan against her. Newsflash, Professor, they consider you no one. The three friends of Mio secretly observe how she is pretending to be happy and jolly and want her to truly feel better. Finding a way, they leave the school early. Mio wonders where they went when she comes across them wearing Daihaku heads. Well, she recognizes them, but knowing Yuuko, she plays along her spin the wheel thingy. She receives a gift envelope and looks at them surprised when they tell her she can go now. Before she leaves, Mai gives her one of her carved Buddha statues. Mio walks away feeling happy and at peace as the envelope has a pact stamped by the three to remain her friends for eternity. On Yuuko's idea, Mio and Mai agree to throw a surprise birthday party for Nano and Hake's. They don't really know if it is her birthday, but it makes sense to make someone happy whenever. Poor Mio turns out to be the only one with the wallet, hence she has to pay while Yuuko rushes to tell Nano happily. Mio stops the dumb girl, telling her a surprise needs to stay hidden. Even though Yuuko seems to be well aware that she is stupid, being called out always offends her, so Yuuko throws back a retort about Mio's heartbreak and how she ran away crying. Mio gets flustered and goes on a rant with the conclusion that she still likes him. Talk about weird things. Hake's finally makes a smaller key for Nano, which makes her ecstatic, only for Sakamoto to step on it. Seeing Nano this sad, Hake's decides to make it again. As the three girls go to buy stuff, they realize they have forgotten to inform Nano that they'll be visiting. Mio tries to stop Yuuko, fearing she'll spoil the surprise, but Yuuko is insistent on going. Stopping both Mio and Mai, she rushes to inform Nano before everyone else. Running into Sasahara, Takabana, and Sakurai-sensei, she finally reaches Nano and informs her they'll be visiting before disappearing again. Sakamoto is taking a stroll on the street when Nakamura-sensei sees him. She recognizes him and so does he, which makes him run away. He recalls how much accident-prone Nakamura-sensei has been, which made him think of his escape as good riddance. While looking for him, she runs into Nano, who offers to help while Sakamoto listens to this, dreading the situation. Sakamoto then realizes he got out of the frying pan and jumped into the fire. Freeing himself from Nakamura's accidents, he welcomed Hakese's infinite pranks. So the scale of the two houses has balanced itself, not shifting on either side. Nano rushes back home since her friends are visiting and gets to know that Sakamoto stepped on the new key too. While Hakase is making yet another one, the three ring the bell. Hakase rushes to open the door while Nano is about to put the large key away till she realizes that this key is her identity, and she has been accepted and treated normally despite it being there. As the girls enter and wish her birthday, she is surprised because coincidentally it indeed is her birthday. Trying to get her hands on the cake, Hakase makes Yuuko drop it. Mai says she has another one and takes out the sketch of a shark. While Hakese's eyes shine, the two friends wonder what even is. Nano feels glad about it and takes the cake that she got for her birthday. Hakase comes in and fits the small key, but it is just a compliment to the large key that will make the large key turn whenever Nano is happy. Good thing that Nano has accepted her large key since Hakase is a lost cause. Taking the cake inside, Hakase once again drops it, and that too on Yuuko. Seeing the chaos in front of her, Nano's key turns, showing how she is glad for everything she has. If you enjoyed, let me know if you'll like me to continue this series. Make sure you are subscribed, and I'm out.